Pursue the well-being of the city I have deported you to. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for when it thrives, you will thrive. Today is a Love Denver Day. In fact, many of you are going to be serving today or over the course of the week through some of the things that we've sent out to you. And as you do, make sure you hashtag Love Denver. Also tag Journey Point in that. We would love to get some of those pictures and get some of those frames of you serving the city out there. Now, some of you have been here for some of our serve days in the past with Love Denver, but others, this may be something really new to you. So you're wondering, what in the world are we doing? So this morning, as you're serving neighbors, as you're serving our city and other streams throughout the city, we want to pause and just kind of talk about the why behind Love Denver. Let's talk about why we serve the city the way that we do. If you're new with us this morning, I want you to know that this is a crucial focus for Journey Point. You see, very often you'll hear us say this amongst other things, but one of the things that we value most is that we want to be a church that is for our community and not just in it. We mean that. We mean it with every fiber of our being. I promise you we do. Our team believes that we'll never be able to really reach our city and share the hope that we have in Jesus unless we are for our city in every way. I truly mean that. Now, most churches are kind of known more for what they're against than what they're known for. And so that's why you'll hear us say things like, we're for Denver. We're for loving Denver. We're for neighboring, and we're for so many other things. We want to be known with what we're for, not with what we're against. Now, it may seem like a stretch to you just a little bit to think that we have to actually put something out there that says Love Denver, right? Since on the surface, Denver is extremely lovable in many ways. Killer views of the mountains, great sports city. There's a great arts and museum scene. We're known for Patagonia over Prada, and I love that. We love animals. We have Red Rocks Amphitheater. We are physically fit as a city as I've ever been in. And quite honestly, we are just a short drive away, just minutes from some of the best hiking and the best camping that the world has to offer. It's a great city to love. But did you also know a couple other things about Denver? It's the third loneliest city in America. Denver's suicide rate is particularly high. It's the 9th highest in the country. Teen suicide rate is 3 times the national average. 67% of kids in Denver struggle with childhood hunger. We have the 9th highest drug use rates across the country, 10th highest divorce rates. There's a housing injustice with homelessness that's through the roof. We have gentrification problems and we have immigration issues. There's still a lot of ways that we need to love Denver and love the city that God's called us to. From a spiritual standpoint, there's just one evangelical church for every 32,000 people. Listen, no matter the line that you fall on today, whether you're a long-term follower of Jesus or you're joining us and still processing your thoughts about Christianity, I believe the one aspect that we can agree on is that the community that the evangelical world brings and has to offer is something that should and needs to be welcomed in Denver. As a follower of Jesus and having that worldview, I know that a lot of the systemic problems that we have are from a lack of spiritual community. And that's why Love Denver is such a focus of ours. You see, we're going into our city to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to help in areas of true need in our city, to love people well, and to point them to the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. The text that I shared to begin with, Jeremiah 29:7. I'll read it again. It says, pursue the well-being of the city I have deported you to. It says, pray to the Lord on its behalf, for when it thrives, you will thrive. See, here's what you should kind of briefly know about this text. God was telling his people were the Israelites, right? That they were going to be entrapped in an enemy city named Babylon. In fact, exiled to an enemy city named Babylon. And he was telling his people to pray and work towards Babylon's peace and prosperity. There's kind of an oxymoron going on there, don't you think? See, this is one of the only places in the entire Old Testament where praying for your enemies is noted, something that we do see in the New Testament, but this is the singular place in the Old Testament. But it's also an area where we see God's people come together, not for their city, not for their own city, not for the own spiritual community that they have, but for a community that didn't even believe in or live for the God that they served. A city that they were deported to, a city that they were exiled to. Now listen, I don't know what brought you to Denver. I don't know where you're going, how long you'll be here. I don't even know why you're here, but I do know this: you're here. God has you here for such a time as this, and he has you, from my worldview, here for a purpose. You see, while you're here, I think God asked the same of you that he did for the Israelites thousands of years ago while they were entrapped in an area called Babylon. See, he wants you not to just be in this city, but he wants you to be for it. He wants you to love it well. He wants you to pray for it. He wants you to serve this city well. In fact, can I tell you this? He may have even brought you here specifically to take care of the needs that this city has, which is why we focus on serving the way that we do, because we feel that God has brought us here to do that. You know, another passage that I absolutely love when thinking about the unique plan that God has given me while living in a city that I call home is Acts 17:26 and 27. In the New Testament portion of the Bible, Acts 17:26 and 27 says this. It says, "From one man, he has made every nationality to live over the whole earth." And catch this, he has determined their appointed times and the boundaries of where they live. He did this so that they might seek God and perhaps they might reach out and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. God has appointed, very literally, the home that you live in, the workplace that you travel to day in and day out. And why? Well, he says it so that the people around you might seek God and perhaps they might reach out and find him. Why does God have me, Chris Phillips, a Southerner by birth, living in Denver, Colorado? Why does he have you from wherever you are from, maybe even Denver itself, living and being right where you are today? So that the people around you can come to know him through you. You see, you are who you are, where you are, so that others around you can know this man named Jesus. He has a plan and he has a purpose for your life. So why do we do Love Denver projects? Why do we try to care for our community the way that we do, putting effort and energy and resources into the city? Why do we invest in these community projects? Why do we talk so much about being for the city? Well, why? Because first and foremost, we're for God. And if we are in fact for God, I truly believe that we have to be for the city. And if we are for this city, we have to be for the journey that the people in this city are on, no matter where that journey is. So as today we engage in serving our neighbors, please know that it's not just randomly, or it's not just to fill some time or do what we think we should be doing or what needs to be done or is the right thing to do. No. All of those things may be true. But the definitive reason that we are for Denver, that we love Denver throughout the year and all of these projects that we take part in, is so that we can be hope in a very dark world. So that we can be positive news in a time where only the grim news makes the front page of the paper and hits the headlines to begin the newscast, right? So that we can be for God and for the city and for the journey. So this week, serve your street. Serve your neighbors. Serve your workplace. Serve your immediate neighbor. Pray for them. Pray for peace and prosperity in their life. Pray for well-being. Pray for the city that God has called you to live in. Do as Jeremiah 29 says. Pursue the well-being of the city I have deported you to. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for when it thrives, you will thrive. That's what God's called us to. And when thinking about serving our city, one of the first things that came to mind was the housing injustice that we see all alongside of Denver. You've seen the housing injustices and the homelessness that we see associated with it. While our team kind of talked and prayed about what we could do today for this service, none other than Brad Miley's name comes to mind. You see, Brad is the president and CEO of the Denver Rescue Mission, and you may not have known this, but he and his wife, Carrie, also called Journey Point Church home. So we wanted to spend just a minute today letting you hear from the heart of a guy that loves our city well, a guy that loves Denver, and a guy that knows all too well what it's like to need the love of Denver from people like you and I. So I want you to watch this interview. I want you to be encouraged by his heart to serve the less fortunate and this great city that we call home. Hey guys, I am joined with a special guest today in a very special place, and I'll let him do a lot of introduction, but this is the president and CEO of Denver Rescue Mission. This is Brad Miley. Not only is Brad a neighborhood resident of Stapleton, not only is he a Journey Point Church person, this is his home church, but he is also working here in the community in the city of Denver with the Denver Rescue Mission, and he's a loved person in our family and in our community, and even more importantly, in our city. And what a special privilege it is for us to be in here today in one of your locations. Before we dive into what it means to love Denver and serve the city and homelessness that's throughout the city and housing injustice, Brad, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, how you got to where you are, and how you landed at Denver Rescue Mission as president and CEO.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming. We appreciate Journey Point being here. You're inside the Holly Center, which is one of our shelters. And the way that I really came to be here is God brought me here. So I, for the most part, grew up in Colorado Springs. I'm a Kansas boy before that. Okay. So I came to work here at the Denver Rescue Mission about 21 years ago. Yeah. Started as a volunteer. I worked in commercial banking for about 17 years before eventually coming here to the mission. Yeah. Can't imagine doing anything else. I love what we get to do here because, as we say, our mission at the Denver Rescue Mission is changing lives in the name of Christ. It's a wonderful thing.
So you've been here for quite some time. Just on a micro level, what does President and CEO look like of Denver Rescue Mission? I mean, how many facilities are here in Denver? What does it look like? How many people do you have coming in and out of, employees and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. We have 9 facilities. 2 of them are in Fort Collins. Well, actually, one's the Fort Collins Rescue Mission. We have a farm, a harvest farm in Wellington. Okay. And the rest of our facilities are here in Denver. What people seem to think of when they think of the Denver Rescue Mission is right downtown off Park Avenue West. There's a big Jesus Saves sign. Yeah. It's interesting, the folks that are homeless, our guests that are coming in to be with us, call it Jesus Saves. They don't call it Denver Rescue Mission. I'll just meet you at Jesus Saves. Wow. We have about 244 employees right now, and we've been serving the community for 128 years.
Wow. So you don't have a whole lot going on because you're president and CEO. You also serve on the board with Denver Seminary. There's all of the things that you're involved in the news. You're in constant contact with city officials right now because of what's going on with COVID-19. I know that you've been sitting around waiting to do an interview. So one, thank you for doing this. But two, COVID-19, coronavirus, all that's going on, social distancing, people that are serving in the Denver Rescue Mission. How has all of this and what we're facing right now impacted what goes on a regular basis with the Denver Rescue Mission?
Sure. Well, when this first happened, we very quickly realized that we were going to need to consolidate some things. And so we worked very closely with the city. We have daily calls with the city and other shelter providers. And we were able to basically close the 3 shelters that we normally operate, and we moved to the National Western Complex. Wow. And out at that facility, we have 763 beds. Wow. Where we're taking care of folks, and we partnered with Stout Street Medical Clinic so they could test people that were coming in, the guests that were coming in.
Wow.
That were symptomatic, and then they were actually moved to a hotel that the city had in conjunction with the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. So it's been really this ongoing, very, very collaborative effort. We've been at the National Western now since the 8th of April,
wow.
and we're going to stay out there until looks like at least the 15th of July.
Okay.
And so again, a lot of collaboration and working together and try to really get to a point where, and the reason we moved out to National Western, we want to get to a point where we could really were able to socially distance people that are experiencing homelessness. You know, the rest of the world, the rest of our city has been able to go to your home, you know, and stay at home, safer at home, whatever you want to call it. But we were not able to do that. People that are experiencing homeless don't have a place like that. Yeah. And so now we do out at the National Western. Now, granted, it's 60 square feet, which is you have a cot, a little chair, and, you know, it's taped off kind of your little area. But doesn't seem like that great of a thing unless you're homeless, and if you are, it's a great place to be able to be. And so
it's what they call their home, right? I mean,
it is what they're called.
Maybe more than beds and everything else. At least it's their own space. So hey, here we are. I'm wearing a Love Denver shirt today because it's our kind of serve day. One of the things that I would imagine is heavily reliant upon at Denver Rescue Mission is volunteers. People serving, which also means people with expendable time, probably an older population. How has COVID-19 impacted the ability for people to come in and serve on a regular basis, the need?
Sure. On any given year, we'll have some 16,000 volunteers, which is pretty incredible.
That's awesome.
But people are still coming. They're willing to join us and jump right into the fire with us,
wow.
Which is very exciting. Now, it's interesting that you say that, Chris, about folks being older. It's not really. I mean, you'd be surprised the number of young people that we have, or folks that come from businesses, to try to be involved and help us. But we have been very, very fortunate that people are continuing to want to come and volunteer. And honestly, we need them. It's not just our staff that is able to provide this, but we're very reliant on volunteers in our community.
Wow, I'm telling you, as our staff served, it was awesome to see. We had a lady that was there. She's there every Monday. We had another gentleman that was there every day for lunch that came. He worked with the Youth Corps. And so it's great to see people that are investing in the city like that. Today, one of the things that we talked about was Jeremiah 29:7. I just find it interesting that you have this group of people that goes into a city that they don't like. They're exiles into this city, and yet they're told to pray for the prosperity and the peace of this city. I think if anyone knows anything about going into a city and praying for the peace and prosperity of the city, it would be you, dealing with people that are really at the lowest of the low because they don't have a home. They have not a lot of people that look up to them on a regular basis, but maybe even look down on them, not even knowing who they are. What is your hope and your prayer for the city through Denver Rescue Mission? Just in terms of loving a city well, what is your hope and prayer for loving a city well?
I just think that Christ called us to love one another, even as He loved us. And so this is really what we try to do at the Denver Rescue Mission. It's special for us to see lives change. You know, we try to help people become productive, self-sufficient citizens, and to see them be able to leave a life of poverty, a life of addiction, to be restored to family members. So every day, I don't know if that's for the entire city, really every day for everyone that comes through our door, that's what we're trying to do, is just love up on people, develop relationships with them, and see if we can help be a part of changing their lives. And it's Christ really using us to be able to do that.
Gosh, I can't even imagine. I mean, we're called Journey Point because of the journey that we're on in our life, right? And obviously that journey at some point comes to a relationship with Christ or coming face to face with Him, whether on this side of heaven or the other side. But I can't imagine the journeys that you get to see people going on a regular basis, because they're staged, right? You take them from one point to the next at the end, hoping to graduate them, so to speak, right? Tell us a little bit about the stages that you have here. How does someone come and walk through and walk alongside in the journey that they're walking on?
Sure. Well, people come through our door. Often it's just for a meal. I've had folks say, I wasn't looking to have my life changed. I just came to get a meal. And then a volunteer or someone comes alongside of them and starts to develop a relationship. And then we're basically saying, how can we help you? What can we do to help you? And it might be our New Life Rehabilitation Program. People come with drug and alcohol addictions or poor life skills or poor life choices. And so we try to come alongside of them and help them. They may be with us 6 months to a year and then graduate that program, and they have a place to live. They have a job. They're free, as free as you can be from drug and alcohol addictions. They've been free from that for 6 to 13 months, and we hope that they'll continue. And then the last thing that's really important to us is we really encourage them to develop community. Community like you would have at Journey Point. And so to have folks be involved, because you need family, and a lot of these guys have angered their family members. And so for a lot of them, it may be that church community that's really the key.
So speaking of church community, last question. What does it mean, or how important is it for a church, in your opinion, in your mind, in your experience, how important is it for a church to really love the city that God's called them to go in and serve in places like Denver Rescue Mission, and to be the hands and feet of Jesus? How important do you see that as a role, not only in our lives as followers of Jesus, not only in the journey that we have, but in the lives of helping pray and seek out the welfare of our city, as Jeremiah 29 says?
I think this is what we were called to. This is what Jesus called to reach out to folks. And honestly, I think this is what Journey Point does really, really well. I mean, they're saying, how can we get more involved? What can we do to try to help? And I think for the Denver Rescue Mission, the city sees us not so much as a faith-based organization. They see us as someone that's making a difference. And then that earns us the right to be able to say, we're doing this because we love you through Jesus Christ. And so, and I think that's really kind of what Journey Point's doing too. And that's why my wife and I, since we moved up here from Parker to Stapleton, have really enjoyed being a part of a church, honestly, that's so missional.
You know, you just said it, maybe not in the words that I use a lot, but you 100% hit the nail on the head. What we say a lot of times is when people know that you're for them, they'll in turn, no matter what they believe, what you believe, they're going to be for you and what you're doing too. And so one of our values and kind of missions here at Journey Point is to not just be in the city, but to be for the city. And we think being for the city means going and serving at places like Denver Rescue Mission. It means going and serving the city that God's called us to. It means praying and seeking out the welfare for our city that God has put us in. Maybe it is for just a small amount of time. Maybe it is transient and we're here for a job, or we thought God brought us here for another reason. But God has us here for a specific reason. And I know that reason is so that we can serve the community that God called us to while we are there in that community, so that we can see life change. I mean, we talked about it. Acts 17, 26 and 27 says that God's designed the place where we live so that people around us can come to know him. There's 800 people a day that are spending the night at the Western Stock Show right now that I know all of them have some needs in terms of homes and the housing injustice that's around. But I know another need that they have even greater than that, and that's the love of Jesus Christ, for them to embrace that and for them to understand that and for them to embrace what he did for them. And so, Brad, I can't thank you enough for the work that you guys do. I've been so encouraged by going and serving, by finding out more. I feel like I find out more and more about what you guys do every time I dig into it. And there's so much more to be told. And so I can't thank you enough for doing the work that you do and living the life that you're living in terms of pointing people on that journey. How can people get involved with Denver Rescue Mission in any kind of way to serve the needs that you guys have right now?
Sure. Well, if you're under 65 years old and you would like to come and help us, you can go on denverrescuemission.org and press the volunteer button. There will be all kinds of different opportunities. We always appreciate people supporting us financially as well. and just praying for us. We really appreciate that. And then we are reliant as well on folks for food, like non-perishables and blankets and clothing, all the kinds of things you'd think that people that are experiencing homelessness would need. And so we are completely reliant on this community. It's a great community that we live in, and we're fortunate that they have continued to support us for 128 years.
You've heard it. There's tons of ways to get involved. God has you here to do that and to get involved. So we encourage you, step out. If you need more information, reach out to one of us. But I thank you so much for your time today, Brad. I know you have a lot going on. It means a lot for you to take time to share a little bit of your heart on why we can do things like Love Denver.
So thank you. God bless you.
Man, what an incredible time to hear the heart of a guy that loves our city and knows what it means to have people serving and loving the city well. Hey, I hope you were encouraged. I hope you know why we do things like Love Denver. I hope that it encourages you to also love the city that God's called us to, right? I hope it encourages you to be for God, to be for the city, and to be for the journey that the people in the city of Denver are on. If we can encourage you in any type of way, if we can help you get plugged into serving in any type of way, don't hesitate to reach out. You can get in touch with me or Seth. Reach out to Seth@journeypoint.org. Seth handles all of our projects, and we'd be more than willing to help you get plugged in today to meet the immediate needs of those people around you so that you too are praying for and serving the needs of the city that God has called you to. I hope you're encouraged. Here's what we're going to do just to close out today's time. Turn up the TV, turn up the tablet just a little bit, and we're going to have one song that we're going to worship to, just to reflect and be thankful to God, to the city that he has called us to. So turn it up. Let's worship. Let me pray, and then we'll go right into that worship time. Father, I thank you. I thank you that you have called me to this great city. I thank you that you've placed a heart and a burden on people like Brad Miley and myself and others and many more to serve the city that you've called us to, God. I pray that we would not just serve the city because we're here, but I pray that we can be light in a very dark world. God, I pray that we can help find people whose lives need to be transformed. God, I pray that we can help these people that are moving in and alongside of this journey that you've given them. God, and I pray that you would do the work that only you could do in their lives, that you would do a work exceeding abundantly above all that we could ask or think. God, do the work that you desire done in this city. I pray that we would be able to look back years from now and say, God did a great work through loving Denver well, the way he has called us to love it. It's in your precious name we pray. Amen.